Of the many weapons in Fallout, only one allows you to carry a portable Armageddon in your back pocket. There's only one weapon that can be described as a tactical nuclear catapult. Can you beat Fallout 4 with only a fat man? Unlike Fallout 3 or New Vegas, Fallout 4 takes a more simplistic approach to weapons by doing away with strength requirements. This means that I could put no points into strength, or 10 points into strength, and it wouldn't affect my ability to use the Fat Man in any way. Well, that's not entirely true. It won't affect my ability to fire mini nukes from the Fat Man. What strength does do is affect how much damage I can deal when whacking someone with the Fat Man. Because also, unlike previous Fallout games, there are two ways to damage an enemy with any given firearm. There's the obvious shooting part, and the gun bashing part. Strength dictates how much damage can be dealt with gun bashing. You might think that gun bashing sort of takes away from the point of the video, but I'm inclined to disagree. Whether it's beating a puppy to death with a Fat Man, or setting off a miniature nuclear warhead in a crowd of people, both are doing damage with the Fat Man, which is the challenge. With all of that out of the way, I put 6 points into strength, charisma, and intelligence, 4 points into luck, and 2 into perception, endurance, and agility. I tried to come up with some creative name for my character, failed miserably, named myself Fat, just Fat, ran out of breath on my way to the vault, entered it, froze, defrosted, and escaped the vault without killing any of the radroaches by trapping them behind doors. Also, before the bombs fell and destroyed everything, I used console commands for the first and last time in this run to see if you can kill Baby Sean. You can't if you were as morbidly curious as I was. Out into the wasteland, I stopped by Sanctuary to pick up a fan from my dead neighbor's house and let Codsworth fix me a snack. And holy God, is he fucking slow. He then gave me a message my significant other had recorded some 200 years ago. I had no interest in listening to it, but I didn't want to disrespect the dead by throwing it away, so I stuck it in the fridge for safekeeping. After leaving Sanctuary, the immediate problem was that I can only attack enemies with a Fat Man, and I don't have a Fat Man. There are quite a few of them spread across the Commonwealth, and their locations are listed on the Fallout Wiki, but because it's such a stupid powerful weapon, it's not exactly easy to get. You won't find one just sitting out in the open in a convenient place. For example, there's one in Goodneighbor that's just asking to be stolen, but getting to Goodneighbor at a very low level with limited supplies is not the easiest thing in the world. I had a rock-solid idea of where I was going to go to get one. The plan is idiot-proof. Not even I could fuck it up. It started at the Museum of Freedom with Preston Garvey killing the raiders outside so I could complete the out-of-time quest to level up. Then, indirectly threatening great bodily harm to Wolfgang if he didn't pay me and fuck off. I made my way to Lexington, just past the Super Duper Mart, to an encampment of raiders who were hiding out amongst a few partially destroyed buildings. One of them, presumably the Big Cheese, had power armor and a Fat Man. All the wiki says about the Fat Man found here is on the walkway where the raider with power armor is found. I, being the reasonably reasonable person that I am, took that to mean that the Fat Man is just sitting there. And it was, probably, maybe. What I hadn't considered is that one of the raiders would get to it before I would and decide to kill us all. After trying to lure a few ghouls up there to kill everyone, the raider eventually lost the Fat Man. My hope was that it fell to the ground, but it was nowhere to be found. So that foolproof plan didn't work out all that well. Luckily for me, there's another option that relies on other people doing the hard work for me. I pressed onward, deeper into the city, until I heard a distress call from Cambridge Police Station. Knowing that a hero needed to save the day, I ambushed the Brotherhood soldiers with a dozen ghouls. They got the best of Paladin Dance a few times. After a while and some solid teamwork, we beat the ghouls back into the ground. My mustache and I agreed to help Dance retrieve a deep-range transmitter from ArcJet Systems. I looted the police station, spent about 90 seconds staring at a loading screen, which happened a few times throughout this run, and Dance and I were off on an adventure. Along the way, he brutally murdered a family of puppies. I tried to block the violence by hiding behind this lamppost, but it didn't really work. Dance and I pushed through ArcJet, and by Dance and I pushed through ArcJet, I mean I used Dance's body as a shield while he killed everything in our path. I tried to be useful by shutting down a few turrets, but it was almost as if I'd shut down Dance when I shut down the turrets. I can't imagine why that would have happened. I cooked Dance alive, did some parkour, and finally found the fattest of men. The new problem is that, Despite everything I said at the beginning of the video about gun bashing, I didn't go into this playthrough thinking that I would use it. I had hoped to rely on mini-nukes. But the thing about mini-nukes is that, for whatever reason, they're exceedingly rare in Fallout 4. Unlike Fallout 3, where not only can you buy a mini-nuke from a vendor in one of the game's biggest cities, you're practically given the Fat Man and 8 mini-nukes if you follow the main quest line. In Fallout 4, well, that doesn't happen. You're never given any mini-nukes, and they're a bitch to find, primarily because no vendors sell them. That's right, you cannot buy mini-nukes in Fallout 4. If you don't have subtitles enabled, you miss that asterisk after cannot. You can buy them, but only from a weapon emporium that you create at a settlement, and to do that, you need Local Leader rank 2 and Cap Collector rank 2, and the lowest level at which you can obtain both perks is level 20. Spoiler alert, when I saw the endgame cutscene, I was level 19, so, you know, weapon emporium ain't an option. We'll come back to that problem in a bit. I've already been bitching for like 15% of this video. After I found what Dan's had been looking for, we left ArcJet. I agreed to join the Brotherhood of Steel, and was off to Bunker Hill. On my travels, I realized that I didn't care at all about the junk jet. I tried to stuff it into a fridge like I did with that holotape from earlier, but you can probably guess how that turned out. I then discovered BADTFL Regional Office, and guess what treasures lay inside? Mini-nuke. What I'd been searching for so long was finally within my grasp. All I had to do was run inside, snag the nuke from the evidence locker, and run like hell. Things didn't really go as planned, because why would they? I ended up spending about 8 minutes in that nightmare of a building, because I couldn't find the goddamn evidence locker. Eventually I did, after wasting far more stim packs than I was comfortable doing, left the building with a single mini-nuke, and was back in the game. I arrived at Bunker Hill to sell some stuff, but also because there are mini-nukes in the basement. I thought it would be like stealing candy from parents who are mourning the death of their first child. But just like the cure for Johnny's stage 4 colon cancer, the utility basement is inaccessible. Let me tell you, this hit me just as hard as the cancer hit Johnny. God bless him, he fought as hard as he could, but he always was a little bitch. Anyway, after that disappointment, I went to where another mini-nuke was assured, Cabot House. Yes, after smooth talking my way into Jack Cabot's family home, I went down to the basement, threw Edward's mini-nuke down the stairs just to see what happened, stole it, and upped my arsenal to a whopping 2 mini-nukes. I had also read that that particular mini-nuke respawns after a while, so I waited quite a while, left the building, reloaded the game, and did not pick up a third mini-nuke because it didn't respawn. I went to Goodneighbor to sell what I'd picked up on my travels, because what else could I do? Acquired my third mini-nuke by stealing it from Cleo, marked Diamond City on my map, returned to the police station to continue the Brotherhood questline a bit, made it to Diamond City, and was one doorknob away from a fourth mini-nuke. The lock on Arturo's house was as formidable opponent as I've ever faced in any video game, meaning I, again, didn't get another mini-nuke. This is what I meant when I said they're a bitch to get. I wasn't gonna let that defeat me. I'm gonna get a fourth mini-nuke or fucking die trying. The target is the combat zone, a place filled with lots of enemies and lots of disappointment from what could have been. Tucked away neatly in the stands is a lonely mini-nuke. I saved it from itself by condemning it to certain doom sometime in the future. Outside the combat zone, I got overwhelmed by all the gunfire and prematurely ejected a mini-nuke into the crowd of people. It's nothing to be ashamed of, it happens to a lot of guys, or so I've heard. After realizing I just wasted 25% of my ammo, I reloaded a prior save, ignored the raiders, fled the scene, and was off to rescue Nick Valentine. It was in Park Street Station that I finally decided to start gun bashing enemies with the Fat Man, because this not attacking unless I'm detonating a miniature nuclear warhead thing just ain't working out. And this isn't the without attacking anything run. So I dumped a point into Basher to make gun bashing do 25% more damage, and went to town bashing a few men in the confined underground space, where nobody on the surface could hear any screaming. Turns out that even with strength of somewhere around 8, the first rank of gun basher, and a dose of psycho, gun bashing isn't all that effective. There's a brief window of time in between gun bashes, and each bash takes somewhere around 15% of your action points. But at least I'm doing damage. In classic Bethesda fashion, after I used a terminal, I failed to use the stairs and the game temporarily broke. Thanks, Todd! The triggermen deeper into the station were about as troublesome to deal with as I thought they'd be. Had I planned ahead and gone in with more than half a dozen stim packs, this might not have been so bad. I then used one of my precious explosive babies on what I thought would be several triggermen, but ended up being like 2. Before pressing onward, I exited through the secret tunnel, returned to Diamond City to buy as many stim packs as I could, then went back to the Museum of Freedom to parkour my way from the roof of the church and onto the museum itself to get a suit of power armor, and went back down to Park Street Station. In addition to making me tougher, the power armor also makes using the Pip-Boy to enter vaults a thing of the past. As I got closer to Nick, I accidentally landed on a Triggerman and killed him. My fat ass crushing whoever it lands on is unfortunately not a fat man, which meant I had to do that little segment over again. Dino took a bit of time to kill. Nick didn't glitch out or do anything stupid that would cause our escape to be any more challenging than it was already going to be. Some Triggermen could go down in 2 whacks, others took closer to 5 or 6. Skinny Malone gave Nick and I 10 seconds to get out of the vault before he came after us. I agreed to meet Nick in Diamond City, did the interview with Piper, explained the predicament with my boy to Nick, got the key to Kellogg's house from Mayor McDouchebag, met Dogmeat again, got an amazing slow motion shot of Dogmeat being fucked to death by a nuclear warhead, and was off to Fort Hagen. I did follow Dogmeat for a little while, but I always hate to slowly dwaddle behind someone while they do something quest in Fallout. So I set off on my own because I'd picked up a scent. Another mini-nuke was calling out for help. This one was at the Coast Guard pier guarded by super mutants, with the primary threat being a super mutant suicider. Those mutants in particular bothered me. If you kill a suicider, you can get a mini-nuke, but the only way I can kill one is from a distance with a mini-nuke. It's like some sick fuck's idea of a joke. Todd Howard is probably behind this. Another mini-nuke is located in Vault 81. My initial idea was to obliterate the folks sitting at the vault's entrance, but wouldn't you know it, I sent a nuke flying into the group of people and only one of them died. I'm not joking for the sake of the video, that's really fucking lame. The number of NPCs that can't die takes a lot out of Fallout 4. The mini-nuke, located in Vault 81, is supposedly located in a hidden portion of the vault. It was either hidden exceptionally well, or it was referring to the portion of the vault that you can only enter once you start the quest line that ends with you finding Curie. Regardless, I didn't have time for that, so I left the vault, arrived at Fort Hagen, gave Dogmeat a few violent boops on his snoot to make sure he knew he wasn't welcomed here, and entered Fort Hagen to find Kellogg. I took the fight to one of the synths on the top level, but they take 4 to 5 hits each to kill, and with the number of synths in the fort, it would drain through too many of my stim packs to stop and kill them all, not to mention the fact that each gun bash drains a bit of the fusion core, and I was on my last one. I ignored as many of the synths as I could, found Kellogg, used one of my mini-nukes to take him out, bashed the shit out of the synths that didn't die in the blast, and left Fort Hagen. The Brotherhood arrived in the Commonwealth. I talked to Nick and Piper about what to do next, fast-traveled to Good Neighbor to meet Dr. Amari, and let her begin poking and prodding at the Tin Man's brain. It didn't work. I went into Kellogg's memories, all the usual stuff. I think someone stuffed cheese in the VCR tape slot or something, because the last memory kept looping. Or maybe it always does. I don't know. I don't remember the last time I spent any longer in Kellogg's head than was necessary. Out of his head, I was tasked with finding Virgil out in the glowing sea. I ditched my power armor before I even got close to the edge of the glowing sea, because I only had about 1.5 fusion cores left, and I didn't want to waste them running to the end of the game world. Plus, I had a hazmat suit, and would be avoiding enemies whenever possible, so the protection from the power armor wasn't all that useful. A problem that was 1 part Deathclaw and 1 part Carrot led to me temporarily getting stranded on top of a collapsed piece of highway, while I waited for a Deathclaw to Amscray. Sometime later, I found Virgil, convinced him to help me, and was off to kill a courser. I kept the tradition alive by completely ignoring the radio signals portion of this quest and going straight for Green Tech Genetics, where I spent another 90 seconds staring at a loading screen. For some reason, I left Green Tech Genetics and fast-traveled to the Museum of Freedom, killed the raiders inside, saved Preston and the Minutemen, released a Deathclaw outside, and waited while the Deathclaw, raiders, and Brotherhood soldiers fought to the death until only the Brotherhood remained. Preston and his stupid friends were off to Sanctuary, and I was hot on their trail so that I could use a workbench there to drop off my junk for the first time so far in this playthrough. With some breathing room in my pockets, I returned to Green Tech Genetics to begin scaling the interior of the building, which was surprisingly tougher than Fort Hagen. I used the same technique on the Courser as I did with Kellogg. Kill him. With his Pringle in my possession, Dr. Amari informed me that I'd need the Railroad's help to decode the damn thing. I discovered the Old North Church, but before going inside, I took a ride up to the Prydwen with Paladin Danse to keep things moving in the right direction. Maxon gave his speech. I resurrected Dolph Ziggler's old gimmick of introducing myself to everyone I could find, spoke to Maxon again, and tried in vain to get the mini-nuke that was on the table behind Proctor Tegan. It was just sitting there, mocking me, taunting me, trying to seduce me from afar. Also, this weirdo stood there listening to my conversation with Tegan. My first, somewhat official Brotherhood mission was a tough one: clear out Fort Strong. Even with Psycho, a plain super mutant can take 6 bashes to kill, and those of you good at math will know that 6 bashes at roughly 15% AP cost per bash is almost 100% of my AP. That's annoying with a few enemies, but it's a legit problem when there's half a dozen enemies and a super mutant behemoth. There were no options with the super mutant behemoth. A mini nuke was the only way to go. My best bet was to take out as many of the other mutants as I could when I killed the behemoth. I could have done a better job with that, but it worked out alright in the end. There are a few mini nukes in the basement of Fort Strong, which made me more comfortable with using another one in the basement, but I still conserved ammo when at all possible. Back aboard the Prydwen, Maxon spread his creamy praise all over my face, and I returned to the Old North Church to make contact with the railroad. Unfortunately, you can't just analyze the Courser chip yourself, and using Tom's terminal will make everyone else hostile. So I handed over the chip, got it analyzed, got the plans from Virgil, and informed Maxon of what was happening. I worked with Ingram to get the teleporter set up properly and teleported inside the Institute. I had no interest in helping the Institute with anything, so I spoke to Madison Lee to convince her to join the Brotherhood, met with the other bigwigs, and left to give Ingram the holotape she'd requested and to inform Elder Maxon of what I discovered. What came next was almost as bad as the Dwemer ruins of Skyrim. I had to talk to Ingram, then back to Madison Lee, and then back to Proctor Ingram. It wouldn't be so bad if there weren't so many loading screens between locations. But then again, it wouldn't be a Bethesda game if there weren't a traumatizing amount of loading screens. After all that waiting, I was tasked with finding a special magnet that Elder Maxon wanted to put on his fridge. Then I fucked up, big time. By this point, I put away the list of mini-nuke locations, which was a mistake, because I passed through Big John Stud's salvage without picking up the mini-nuke located there. I was so focused on finding that magnet that I didn't even think to look for a mini-nuke in the scrapyard. I found the high-powered magnet in Mass Bay Medical Center, returned to the airport, and built not 4, but 5 electromagnetic actuators. Ingram showed an emotion for the first time since she became a cripple, and I went back to the glowing sea to find the biggest supply of mini-nukes the world had ever seen. The ghouls in the Sentinel site didn't put up much of a fight. The glowing one could have been a real nuisance, but I lured it into the command room, and Adam's Wrath handled it. And for the second time, I completely forgot about my ulterior motives for traveling to Sentinel site. It wasn't for the Brotherhood, it was to get more mini-nukes. As soon as I planted the beacon, I turned into an Xbox 360 because I turned around 360 degrees and walked away. Back at the airport, I activated Liberty Prime. Maxon took his now dry and crusty cream back inside himself when he yelled at me. I kept a close eye on Scribe Halen as we went down to the basement in the sky, and I traveled to Listing Post Bravo to kill me a metal puppet. The Protectrons were as stubborn as I am, because they rudely interrupted me telling Danse that I was going to bash in his skull. They're also a bit time consuming to kill. Danse got on his knees. I gave him the old heave-ho with my fat man, and I returned to Elder Maxon to inform him of a job well done. The end is almost in sight, but before the end can begin, I had to eliminate the railroad. Glory was the only one who posed an actual threat. In his final moments, Drummer Boy finally got to be a big boy. I beat him to death just as his father would have wanted. With the railroad decimated and Pam reprogrammed, Ingram and I could fly to Mass Fusion to get the beryllium agitator. The synths continued to be pretty annoying to fight. Luckily, you can largely ignore them as you get deeper and deeper into the building until you arrive at the reactor chamber. Once I had the agitator lodged safely inside me for transport, I knew that I'd be parting with at least 2 of my mini-nukes before I left the building. Sentry bots and Assaultrons are among the toughest enemies in the game. Ingram did some damage to the sentry bot, but it was too much for her, which led to me using a mini-nuke on it. 2 Assaultrons were released in the next room, and I didn't hesitate before ending them. I ignored the synths and Brotherhood soldiers fighting and causing a ruckus, left the building, and faced an almost 2-minute-long loading screen. Before I returned to Ingram and took the final steps towards the end of the world, I found the 3 mini-nukes located in the lower level of the Prydwen. I knew what was coming. about 15 minutes of boring while following Liberty Prime. For the briefest of moments, I thought it would be possible that I wouldn't have to consider doing shots of Drano during this part of the game, because I tried to jump on Liberty Prime's head to ride him all the way to the CIT ruins. Yeah, no, that doesn't work. After Liberty Prime got startled by the water, I figured out something that changes everything. You can just fast travel to CIT ruins and skip most of the bullshit. It's finally time to go beat my father to death. Hooray! Back in the Institute, I mostly ignored the synths until my team and I arrived at the heart of the Institute. I used one of my mini-nukes to take out a group of synths, another to take out what I thought was a legendary synth, but was actually a Brotherhood Knight. Oops. And went to find Father. His iron lung protected him from the harm I'd hoped to cause with a mini-nuke. And you can't melee while in dialogue, but you can look away, melee, and turn to face him before the animation finishes, allowing you to kill Father, who was surprisingly ripped for a 60-year-old. The Brotherhood and I pushed through the Institute until we found the final group of synths alive to make their stand. Well, they're not really alive. I ignored them, placed the charge on the reactor, was teleported to safety, tried to use my last mini-nuke on Jared Fogel's real doll, told Ingram to leave the kid to die in the explosion, was teleported to safety again. I destroyed the Institute and beat Fallout 4 with only a fat man. And that's going to do it for this video about whether or not you can beat Fallout 4 with only a fat man. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Join the Mitten Squad Discord through our link in the video description. Follow me on Twitter at Mitten Squad. My name is Paul of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.